We're having a conversation about troubling trends that I see in the church, and this week I want to focus on three very large troubling trends that I see in the church today, and just ask you to get on the solution side with me. If you figured this out, let us know, but this is a very, very difficult thing. The first one is this, that leaders are focused on security over succession. Most leaders in churches have a plan by God's will to be at their church until they retire. Unfortunately, the pace of society, the pace of growth in society and the change in society very often is much faster than the pace of the pastor and his ability to keep up with the trends of the community. And so what happens typically in the life of a church is the church starts to either plateau or decline, even though the community is increasing in volume and size. While that's happening, typically the church is increasing in age and sometimes in finances, and they give to keep the church alive. And what happens is the goal begins to become survival rather than thriving and reaching and impacting the community. See, we have this idea in our heads that ministry is a marathon, and I know that we're supposed to finish the race. Paul says in 2 Timothy chapter 4, I fought the good fight, I finished the race, I kept the faith. And we have this picture of a marathon race in ministry. But elsewhere in the Bible, Paul also talks about the ministry. It says, run in such a way that you may win. And so it's not really a marathon, it's more like a relay race. The idea behind a relay race is this: I've got a certain stint, and while I can still run my fastest, I'm going to hand off the baton of leadership to the next person who's going to be able to run faster, longer, for more distance than I can keep up pace with. The challenge is this: because of the economics of the church, what do we do with a pastor whose ability to lead dies before their before their career comes to an end? And how do we handle that? I'm just going to say we don't have the answer, other than to realize and recognize that all leadership is a stewardship from God. That God is in charge of everything. We need to ask God what He wants us to do with His ministry. It's not our ministry. It's not about us being fearful people. We're people of faith and trusting God for the next season of ministry after we're out of leadership. But this is not happening right now. We're not seeing good, strong successions. We're seeing churches that are plateauing and declining long before the leader will say, okay, I'm tired. I need to pass on this baton. Now who am I going to give it to? The second one is this, that uniformity has usurped variety. This is a result of the technological age, that the abilities, the methods of large and fast-growing churches and very, very competent leaders are available to all of us. And so we go to a conference with Andy Stanley, we hear what Andy's doing, we assume, well, if Andy's doing it, we can probably do it. We forget that he's in suburban Atlanta and we're in downtown Detroit, and we can't possibly take those methods and move them over to downtown Detroit. The principles are the same, but the methods are going to be different. And so we kind of all look the same. A lot of the large churches in America, they look the same, they act the same, and at least somewhat the same, because we're all listening to the same leaders and all learning from the same people who are putting things out there. Not that that's bad, but the fact is, if all of us are suburban, white-collar focused kind of churches, what about the blue-collar people? What about the people of other ethnicities and cultures? And what about the entire community? What's happening in the church is we're reaching segments of the community that look like us and speak like us and vote like us, but we're not reaching the entire community. And God has called us to reach the entire community with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So it's okay to do your services that way, but what's the answer to reaching the entire community? We have to answer that as leaders of our congregations. And then finally, competition has stifled collaboration. Even in these times, and I see certain parts of the country where I see churches working well together. I think about Austin, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, and Chicago, Illinois, and Phoenix, Arizona, and Portland, Oregon. I've seen some, in New York City, I've seen some strong collaborations happening. It's still not where it needs to be. We still think that the church down the street is our competition, and we get upset because they're being blessed by God and we're not. I heard one pastor say it this way: listen, if God is blessing a church down the street, if God is blessing your neighbor, don't get upset, because it means that God is in the neighborhood and you might be next, all right? So let's celebrate what God's doing. We're on the same team. We're on the same team. Do you know how many churches there are in the United States? There's only one. And we're all supposed to be working together to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ for the glory of God. We can't be a people that compete with other churches. Our competition is not the other churches. Our competition is every other thing outside the church that happens on a Sunday morning or happens in the life of the people of your community that point them to something else other than Jesus Christ. Let's make sure we're not competing with each other, but we're collaborating with each other because we're better together. This has been a Converge Whiteboard Leadership Moment. To learn more about Converge or to join us, check out converge.org.